What you are about to see has been systematically buried by WWE's corporate machine. A match so explosive, so controversial, that mentioning it in WWE headquarters could get you escorted out by security. I'm talking about the dream match that actually happened, but has been scrubbed from history like it never existed. Welcome back to Wrestle Scope, and if you think you know everything about WWE's forbidden chapters, think again. Because today, we're breaking down the full story behind CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. A match that combines two of the most toxic relationships WWE has with former superstars, wrapped up in one explosive encounter that the company wishes you'd forget ever happened. Hello viewers, if you're new here, please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button for daily updates on WWE Raw. And here's the part that's gonna make your blood boil. This wasn't just any match. This was a mixed tag team encounter that featured four of the most talented performers of the 2010s. And yet, WWE has done everything in their power to make sure you never see it again. Why? Because CM Punk walked out. Because AJ Lee sued them. Because WWE doesn't want you to remember that these four created magic together before everything went nuclear. So here's what we're doing today. We're going to reconstruct this entire match, piece by piece. We're going to talk about the relationships, the drama, and why this specific match represents everything WWE loves to pretend never existed. And I guarantee by the end of this video, you're going to be furious at how WWE treats their own history. Hello viewers, if you're new here, please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button for daily updates on WWE Raw. Alright, let's set the stage. To understand why this match is so significant, we need to talk about the four people involved and why each one represents a different kind of nightmare for WWE's PR department. CM Punk, the radioactive man. Let's start with the obvious one. CM Punk, the most controversial figure in modern wrestling history, the man who walked out of WWE in January 2014, gave the most explosive podcast interview in wrestling history, and then spent nearly a decade being the name that shall not be spoken in Stamford. But here's what WWE doesn't want you to remember. Before the walkout, before the lawsuit, before the bad blood, CM Punk was one of the most over performers in company history. The Summer of Punk, the 434-day title reign, the pipe bombs. This man was money, and everyone knew it. And in this match we're discussing, which took place in the spring of 2013, Punk was at his absolute peak. He was the cool, anti-establishment rebel who somehow convinced an entire generation that WWE could be edgy again. He was main eventing WrestleManias. He was moving merchandise. He was everything WWE claimed they wanted. But fast forward to today, and mentioning CM Punk in WWE was basically career suicide until his shocking AEW debut and subsequent return to WWE in 2023. For nearly 10 years, this man was persona non grata, erased, deleted, memory hold. AJ Lee, the forgotten revolutionary. Now let's talk about AJ Lee, and this is where my blood starts to boil, because AJ Lee might be the most disrespected women's champion in WWE history, and it's 100% political. AJ Lee held the Divas Championship for 295 days. She was the longest reigning champion of that era. She could wrestle circles around most of her peers. She had charisma that jumped off the screen. She cut promos that made grown men shut up and listen. And she's been almost completely erased from WWE's women's wrestling evolution narrative. Why? Because she married CM Punk, because she retired in 2015 and then publicly called out WWE's hypocrisy during their Women's Revolution PR campaign, because she had the audacity to sue WWE's doctor over the concussion issues that forced her retirement, because she wouldn't play ball with the corporate machine. WWE wants you to think the Women's Revolution started with Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, and Bayley. And while those women are incredible, they want you to forget that AJ was out there proving women could be the most entertaining part of the show years earlier. They want you to forget she existed because she's married to their enemy number one. Seth Rollins, the company's golden boy. Now we get to Seth Rollins, and this is where the story gets really interesting. In 2013, Seth was part of The Shield, the most dominant faction in WWE. He was the high-flying daredevil, the architect, the future of the company. And unlike Punk and AJ, Seth stayed. He played the game. He became WWE champion multiple times. He became the guy WWE could trust to carry the company through its darkest periods. He's still there today, putting on classics and being one of the most reliable performers on the roster. So you've got this fascinating dynamic, right? In this match, Seth is teaming with his real-life girlfriend at the time, Becky Lynch, against CM Punk and his real-life girlfriend, AJ Lee. Two couples, two very different futures. One side becomes WWE's corporate golden boy and girl, the other side becomes the rebels who burned every bridge on their way out. And finally, we have Becky Lynch. Now, in 2013, Becky was still working her way through NXT. She hadn't yet become the man. She hadn't yet main evented WrestleMania. She was a talented performer with a unique look and tons of potential, but she wasn't the megastar we know today. But here's the thing about Becky. She represents the WWE dream story. The person who struggled, who got released, who came back, who reinvented herself, and who became the biggest star in the company. She's the proof that if you stick with WWE, if you play the game, if you wait your turn, you can make it to the top. So you see the narrative tension here? You've got the rebels versus the loyalists, the people who left versus the people who stayed, the couple who sued WWE versus the couple who became WWE's power couple. This match is basically a microcosm of every political tension that exists in professional wrestling. The match breakdown. Alright, now let's get into the actual match, because despite all the political drama, despite everything that came after, this was a really good mixed tag team match that showcased exactly why all four of these people were considered elite performers. The match starts with the women, which is actually pretty progressive for 2013 WWE. AJ Lee and Becky lock up, and immediately you can see the contrast in styles. AJ is scrappy, aggressive, with this unhinged energy that made her so compelling. Becky is more technical, more grounded, using her strength advantage. AJ hits a quick arm drag, and you can hear the crowd pop. Remember, at this point, AJ is over. She's not just a valet or a manager. She's a legitimate star in her own right. The crowd is chanting her name, and you can see Becky feeding off that energy, trying to match her intensity. They trade moves back and forth, arm drags, snapmares, kicks, forearms. It's crisp, it's smooth, and it's clear both women are trying to prove something. AJ hits her signature corner spinning kick and makes the tag to CM Punk, and the place erupts. The men enter. Now we get Punk versus Rollins, and if you're a wrestling fan, you know this is dream match material. These are two of the best in-ring performers of the entire decade, and they're about to show you why. Punk and Rollins start with a lockup, but immediately Rollins uses his speed to get the advantage. He slips behind Punk, tries for a waistlock, but Punk reverses. They're countering each other's moves before the other person can even complete them. It's like watching a chess match at 100 miles per hour. Rollins hits the ropes, Punk drops down, Rollins jumps over, hits the opposite ropes, and Punk catches him with a beautiful arm drag. Rollins rolls through, charges again, and Punk catches him with a hip toss. The crowd is eating this up because they're watching two absolute masters of their craft. But here's where it gets interesting. Rollins tags in Becky, and according to mixed tag rules, Punk has to tag in AJ, and this is where the match really starts to heat up. AJ and Becky are back in, and now there's this palpable tension. Both women note this is their moment to shine. AJ hits a running clothesline, then another, building momentum. She whips Becky into the corner and follows up with a running knee strike. The crowd is loud. But Becky isn't backing down. She catches AJ with a leg lariat out of nowhere, and suddenly the momentum shifts. Becky starts working over AJ's arm, setting up for her disarm arm she was using in NXT at the time. Here's where the psychology gets really good. Becky is isolating AJ, keeping her away from Punk. She's using quick tags with Rollins to keep AJ off balance, and you can see AJ selling desperation, reaching for that tag, but Becky keeps cutting off the ring. Rollins comes in, and even though he can't strike AJ directly according to mixed tag rules, he's taunting Punk from across the ring. He's playing the cocky heel perfectly, and Punk is selling frustration on the apron. The crowd is chanting for the hot tag, and the tension is building beautifully. Finally, AJ manages to roll under a clothesline attempt from Becky, and she dives for the tag. Punk comes in like a house on fire, and Rollins legally enters to meet him, and here we go. Punk hits a flying forearm. Rollins gets up, Punk hits a spinning back fist. Rollins stumbles into the corner, and Punk charges in with the running knee, followed by the short arm clothesline. It's vintage CM Punk, and the crowd is losing their minds. Punk signals for the GTS. He lifts Rollins up, but Rollins manages to slip out. Rollins hits the ropes, goes for a clothesline, Punk ducks, Rollins hits the opposite ropes, and Punk catches him with a sick power slam.
He covers, but Becky breaks up the pin at 2. This brings AJ into the ring, and now all 4 competitors are in there. The referee is trying to restore order, but the crowd doesn't want order. They want chaos, and they're about to get it. AJ and Becky are brawling. Punk and Rollins are exchanging strikes in the center of the ring. This has completely broken down, and it's glorious. The referee finally manages to get the women back to their corners, and we're left with Punk and Rollins again. They're both exhausted. They're both giving everything they have. Rollins goes for a super kick, but Punk catches his foot. Rollins spins him around and goes for the GTS again. He gets Rollins up on his shoulders, but Rollins rakes the eyes. The referee doesn't see it. Rollins stumbles backwards and tags in Becky. Punk has to tag in AJ. The women are legal again. Becky charges at AJ, but AJ drops down and pulls the top rope with her. Becky goes tumbling to the outside. AJ hits the ropes and launches herself through the middle rope with his suicide dive, and the crowd pops huge. AJ throws Becky back in the ring. She